So moving to the next structure of tooth, that is pulp. Pulp is a soft connective tissue and it is present within the pulp cavity. That is, the rigid confinement of pulp within the hard structure makes the tissue very unique, and the one which is present in the crown area is known as corona, and the one which is present in the root is known as radicular pulp. The zones of pulp involve odontoblastic zone, where the odontoblast were arranged in a palisading fashion, and there exists a cell-free zone which is devoid of cell, and cell-rich zone which consists of fibroblast and undifferentiated mesenchymal cells. Then comes the pulp core. Okay, and the odontoblast will be in different phases throughout the odontoblastic zone of pulp. Either it could be active or transitional or resting. So, how do you differentiate all these three under microscope? In the active cell, it will be elongated with a basophilic nuclei, and there will be abundant organelles and presence of vesicles. Whereas in translational, it will be narrow with fewer organelles and autophagic vacuoles. And in case of resting, it is devoid of organelles with more basophilic nuclei and lipid filled vacuoles. The cells of pulp includes fibroblast, undifferentiated mesenchymal cells, lymphocytes, macrophages, dendritic cells and few fibers. Pulp is very unique because it lacks elastic fibers. So, fibroblast is the most common cell present in the pulp. It is stellate shaped and it helps in the inflammation and healing. Whereas undifferentiated cells were polyhedral in shape with an oval nuclei, and they are said to be totipotent, that is, they can be differentiated into fibroblast, odontoblast and many. Then moving to macrophages. Macrophages are large cells with granular cytoplasm and has a blunt process. They contain phagosomes, that is, it just have the debris after phagocytosis. Then comes the dendritic cells. These were associated with endothelial cells and they present antigen to T cells, and lymphocytes, eosinophils and plasma cells were present during any inflammation. Then coming to fibers, pulp consists mainly of type 1 collagen fiber, and young thin fibers were known as fibrillin, which later upon age leading to formation of dense fibers. Moving to matrix and ground substance. Pulp consists of mainly of type 1 collagen and traces of type 3, and the ground substance consists of glycosaminoglycan glycoproteins. Since the glycosaminoglycans is hydrophilic, okay, it will take up the water and gives a gel like appearance, and it is responsible for the high tissue fluid pressure of the pulp. So, development of pulp. Lifespan of deciduous teeth takes up to 8 years and 3 months, whereas development of pulp in a permanent teeth takes 12 years and 4 months. So, these phases depicts the development of pulp in a deciduous tooth. There are 3 phases. The first phase being phase of growth, which occurs for 1 year, and it starts from the beginning of root formation to root completion. Then comes the phase of maturation, which occurs for 3 years and 9 months, and it is after root formation until root resorption. Then comes the phase of regression, which occurs at 9 years and 6 months. This depicts beginning of tooth resorption till tooth exfoliation, whereas the permanent teeth develop 12 years and 4 months. So, what are all the functions of pulp? The first most important is induction. These pulp analog will help in the differentiation of dental lamina, or it will determine the tooth morphology by interacting with the oral epithelium. Then formative, it helps in the formation of dentin, like either reactionary or reparative, any stimuli, it will start forming or start responding to it with the formation of dentin. Then nutritive, the vascular supply of pulp gives nourishment to the dentin via odontoblast. And it is protective also, because of the pain perception to all stimuli, it is giving a protective nature to the tooth. Then comes the defensive, as I already mentioned, stimulus or any irritation, there will be formation of reparative dentin. Moving to clinical consideration, there is something called pulpitis. Itis means inflammation. So, it is nothing but inflammation of pulp. It could be either reversible or irreversible depending upon the range of stimulus. Then pulp polyp, this usually occur in children and young adults, when the pulpitis will be reflected as a red mass of granulation tissue over the occlusal aspect. Then pink tooth, which is due to the outward resorption of the dentinal pulp, and the inside dentinal walls and the inside pulp will be seen through the translucent enamel, and thus teeth is known as pink tooth, that is nothing, the internal resorption. Then pulp stones. Pulp stones are nothing but calcification which is present in the pulp chamber. It could be either true or false. It is called true when it mimics the dentin, that is, it should have dentinal tubules. Otherwise, just concentric layers of calcification is called as false denticles, and when it is free in the pulp chamber, it is called free, and when it is attached to the dentin, it is known as attached denticles. Then coming to diffuse calcification, where there will be calcifications present diffusely throughout the pulp chamber. Age-related changes in pulp is one of the most important clinical implication, because as the age goes, there will be reduction in the size of the pulp organ due to the deposition of secondary dentin. You can clearly see the difference between the pulp at the young age and the difference at the older age. There will be more deposition of secondary dentin, leading to the regression of the pulp. Moving to cementum. Cementum is another hard avascular connective tissue covering the roots. It consists of 45 to 50% of inorganic and 50% of organic material. As in the pulp, it also contains mostly of type 1 collagen and a specific unique protein, that is cementum derived attachment protein, which helps in the attachment of the cementoblast during formation. So, the thickness varies. It is thinnest at the CEJ, that is where it is 20 to 50 micrometer, and it is very thickest at the root apex, where it is 150 to 200 micrometer. The incremental lines were known as incremental lines of Salter, that is the rhythmic deposition of cementum. And there is something called an hyaline layer, which is a structureless layer. It is neither depict dentin nor cementum. It will be seen in the apical two-thirds of molars and premolars, but research have told that it is of dentinal origin. So, moving to the cementum formation. So, these pictures will clearly tell you the formation of cementum. In the first picture, the inner enamel epithelium and outer enamel epithelium proliferate downwards, leading to formation of Hertwig's epithelial root sheath that induces dental papilla cells to form odontoblast, okay, here. And in the second picture, this Hertwig's epithelial sheath cells break. Then it will induce dental follicle cells to differentiate into cementoblast. Then in the third picture, these cementoblast will start forming cementum overlying the radicular dentin. So, types of cementum. Based on cellularity, it is acellular and cellular. Acellular means absence of cementoblast and cellular means presence of cementoblast. Based on the time of origin, it is either primary or secondary. Based on the presence of collagen fibrils, it is either afibrillar or fibrillar. Afibrillar, again absence of fibrils, and fibrillar, presence of fibrils. Based on the origin of matrix fibers, if it is extrinsic, they were formed from the periodontal ligament, and if it is intrinsic, within, so it is formed from its own cementoblast, and mixed fiber cementum, which is formed by both PDL and cementoblast. So, the differences between acellular and cellular cementum being acellular cementum is first formed, whereas cellular cementum is formed after acellular cementum. So, the deposition rate is very slower when compared to cellular cementum in acellular cementum, whereas in cellular cementum the deposition rate is really high. That is why the cementoblast getting entrapped within it, and there will be more amount of cementocytes seen in the cellular cementum whether there is no cementocytes seen in the acellular cementum. Since there will be a slower deposition, the incremental lines present in the acellular cementum is very regular, whereas in case of cellular cementum it is irregular. The width is constant. Here the cellular cementum, the width is variable, and acellular cementum is present in the cervical third, whereas cellular cementum is present in the apical and interradicular area. And Sharpey's fibers were well mineralized in case of acellular cementum. It is partially mineralized in case of cellular cementum. There is something called acellular afibrillar cementum, which is devoid of cells, devoid of fibrils, which is due to the premature loss of reduced enamel epithelium. Hence, it is deposited as a thin layer on enamel at the cervical region. And cementoid is unmineralized matrix, which is not found in the acellular extrinsic fiber cementum. So, this is the picture showing you acellular cementum and cellular cementum. In the acellular cementum, there is no cells throughout the cementum, whereas in the cellular cementum, you can see cementocytes. So, how do you differentiate between a cementocyte and an osteocyte? Cementocyte lie in a lacunae with the canaliculi radiating towards PDL, whereas in osteocyte, it will be radiated throughout all the surface. Moving to the cemento-enamel junction, that is the junction between cementum and enamel. So, this is of three types. The one being butt joint, which is 30%, that is the cementum and enamel will meet in the same point. Okay, and there is something called gap junction, which is only 10%, that is there is no relation between the cementum and dentin, and hence there is no cemento-enamel junction in such cases. The most common is the cementum overlapping enamel, which is seen in the 60% of population. So, moving to the functions. Functions of cementum involves anchorage, that is it will anchor the teeth to the PDL. Okay, it will anchor the teeth to the PDL. Then comes the adaptation. If there is any occlusal loss, it can be compensated by the formation of cementum in the apical region. So, that is adaptation. Then something called repair. Repair is of two types. One is anatomic repair, the other one is a functional repair. When the cementoblast can form cementum which will maintains its previous length and width, then it is known as anatomical repair. And functional repair, when there is a bay-like recess occur and the bony projection will be starting from the periodontal space to compensate that, then it is known as functional repair. Clinical implications: hypoplasia or aplasia of cementum is nothing but absence of cementum, which is seen in condition called hypophosphatasia, where there will be complaint of premature exfoliation of teeth. And hypercementosis, which is nothing but the increased cemental deposition. It could be either localized or it could be either generalized, as seen in Paget's disease. So, the width of the cementum will be more than 250 micrometer, and since the cementum is avascular, the orthodontic movement is possible, that is the compression and the tension which were given during the orthodontic treatment is well taken up by the cementum because it is avascular. Moving to the another peculiar soft tissue, that is periodontal ligament. It is a specialized connective tissue and the width of the periodontal ligament is of 0.15 to 0.38 mm. It maintains its width instead of being squeezed between the two hard structures, that is, one is cementum and the other one is the alveolar bone. Okay, though it is present in between these two hard structures, it still maintains its width and it still maintains the homeostasis, and that is the speciality of the periodontal ligament. So, how do they develop? The perifollicular mesenchymal cells of the dental follicle will have the synthetic activity. They gain polarity and they will start synthesizing as the root formation continues, and the cells gets elongated with more amount of organelles and they will become an active cells. From polarized cell it will become an active cell, then later leads to deposit collagen and glycoproteins, which are the contents of the periodontal ligament. So, first developed fiber is the alveolar crest fiber. So, these fibroblasts elongates and they align in an oblique direction to the long axis of the tooth and they secrete collagen fibers, and once the tooth starts erupting, they will be formed as an alveolar crest group of fiber. Then, how do other fibers form? Small fine fibrils from the cementum enters the PDL space. So, thin collagen fibrils from bone enter simultaneously, that is, few fibers from the cemental side and few fibers from the bone. Then fibers in coronal third will establish once initial contact is formed and that forms the horizontal fibers later, and oblique fibers mature with definitive occlusion and subsequently the apical fibers were formed. So, the cells of the fibroblast include synthetic cells, that is fibroblast, osteoblast and cementoblast. Then resorptive cells, osteoclast, fibroblast and cementoclast. Then you have something called progenitor cells, epithelial cell rest of molasses, mast cells, macrophages and eosinophils. These are the inflammatory cells. Okay. So, moving to the fibers, these collagen fibers will present as bundles and they are known as principal fibers. Sharpie's fibers were the one which were embedded from cementum to the alveolar bone, which is completely mineralized in case of acellular cementum, and in case of cellular acementum area it is partially mineralized. So, this is the picture showing dentoalveolar, that is the first formed fiber, then horizontal, oblique, apical and interradicular fibers is present only when there is an multi-rooted teeth. So, each fiber have its own function. The alveolar crest fiber, which runs downwards and outwards and insert into the alveolar crest. That is why it is termed as alveolar crest fiber, and it prevents extrusion of tooth from the socket, and it also resists lateral tilting and intrusive tooth displacement. Then comes the horizontal. Horizontal is limited to the coronal third and it runs at right angles. It resists horizontal and tipping forces. Then comes the oblique. Oblique is the most numerous fiber, that it covers the 2/3 of the length of the tooth and it runs in an oblique direction. It is the largest group I mentioned just now and it resists the vertical masticatory forces and thereby preventing intrusion of the tooth. Then comes the apical, which is present in the root tip and it fans out in an irregular fashion and is inserted into the apex of the socket. It is not found in incompletely formed roots and it resists vertical, luxative and twisting forces. Then comes the interradicular. It is present only in the multi-rooted teeth and it is present in the interradicular septum and it resists vertical and lateral movement. Tipping, torquing and luxation is also resisted. These type of fibers will be lost in case of periodontal disease. So, moving to the function, it is supportive, that is it supports the entire tooth to present inside the alveolar bone socket, and it is sensory, it has proprioceptive receptors. It is homeostasis, that is it maintains its width throughout and there is no formation of hard tissue, though it is squeezed in between the two hard tissues, and it helps in the eruption of tooth. It provides nutrition and it also withstands mechanical forces. So homeostasis, which is a special feature of periodontal ligament, how does it occur? MSX2 and TGF beta will downregulate osteogenic differentiation, and matrix GLA proteins, which are the main inhibitor of mineralization, will maintain the periodontal ligament in a soft tissue range. It will not allow them to calcify. Okay, there is no calcification because of these three products, and the balance exists between bone sialoprotein and osteopontin to maintain its width and also to maintain homeostasis. Clinical implication: any periapical pathology will destroy the apical fibers and leads to formation of periapical cyst or periapical granuloma, and guided tissue regeneration have been recently used to correct any PDL destruction. Again, the orthodontic tooth movement depends on cementum, bone and also the PDL. PDL is the one which withstands compression and tension which were produced during orthodontic treatment. Moving to the alveolar bone. Bones of the jaws containing sockets for the teeth. Outer cortical plate, otherwise called as compact bone, which consists of circumferential lamellae that are tightly packed around the Haversian canal. Bundle bone is nothing but the part of alveolar bone where the principal fibers of PDL were anchored. So radiographically it is depicted as lamina dura. The supporting alveolar bone consists of cortical and spongy bone. So there is something called type 1 and type 2, that is the interdental and interradicular trabeculae, where ladder like in case of mandible and it is irregular in case of maxilla. So what are the cells of an bone? It consists of osteoblast, osteocyte and osteoclast. Osteoblasts develop from mesenchymal stem cells and they convert to pre-osteoblast and then osteoblast. Osteoblast is a cuboidal cell with a single nuclei. And osteocyte, as I already said, it lie in a lacunae with canaliculi projected from all over the surface, whereas in case of cementocyte, it is projected only towards PDL. So by that we can differentiate an osteocyte and an cementocyte. Whereas osteoclast will arise from the hematopoietic stem cells, which is converted to monocyte or macrophages and pre-osteoclast, leading to the formation of an multinucleated cell, that is osteoclast, which contains alkaline phosphatase. So osteoblast is a basophilic, plump, cuboidal or slightly flattened cells. These osteocyte will be seen in more in woven bone and repair bone, which have 25 years of average life. And osteoclast will lie in a house-shaped lacunae and it is multinucleated and it contains acid phosphatase. So moving to the reversal and resting line. Resting line is nothing but the incremental line, that is regular rhythmic deposition of bone. Rhythmic deposition of bone, hence it is regular. Whereas irregular is the reversal line, which depicts the clear distinction between the formation and resorption, and it is also basophilic. So when we view it under the microscope, we can clearly find the difference between the reversal and the resting line. What is bone remodeling? That is sequential bone formation and resorption, which is necessary for the bone growth, is known as the bone remodeling, which involves osteoblast, osteoclast. So the bone either to form or to resorb were decided by the osteoblast depending upon the receptors what it is showing over the surface. So the osteoclast consists of rank and osteoblast consists of rank L. So when there is an synergistance between the rank and rankel, or when they both join there will be formation of resorption. And formation, it is reversed and again formation is formed because of the presence of OPG, that is osteoprotogerin on the osteoblast, which will break the bond between this rank and rankel and hence leads to formation of bone by the osteoblast, which leads to the extended mineralization. That is, it is the sequential formation and resorption of bone. So, density of alveolar bone changes. It starts from D1 to D4. The D1 consists of fully cortical, D2 which will have coarse trabecula covered by thick cortical, and D3 is fine trabecular and thin cortical, and D4 consists of only trabecular. Now moving to the functions of alveolar bone. It supports teeth, that is it makes the teeth to lie in a socket which were provided, and it provides a framework for the bone marrow, especially it is the reservoir for ions, that is calcium, and it distributes the occlusal forces equally during mastication. And clinical implications, orthodontic tooth movement, again and again the cementum, PGL and the alveolar bone play an important role in the orthodontic tooth movement. The resorption of alveolar bone occurs upward and inward in case of maxilla, and in case of mandible it is downward and outward. Upward and inward in case of maxilla, downward and outward in case of mandible. Then there is something called graft, which is autograft, allograft or xenograft. Autograft when it is taken from the same human, and allograft which is taken from the other human, and xenograft which is taken from the other species. Fenestration is when the bony coverage has a defect. So, it is covered only by periosteum and gingiva. When the dehiscence is where when it is extends to the marginal bone, it is called as dehiscence. So, these are my references. Thank you.